Onegaishimasu. So Zazen is an opportunity to kind of wash the day away. If you've had a particularly stressful or very, very busy, hectic day, it's an opportunity to empty the mind and to think of it literally as emptying the body. In the internal arts, that concept of emptiness is huge. It's a very predominant quality factor, concept, and principle. And so we can relate to it as literally you're opening and emptying the body, emptying it of tension. To go a little further than that, the first step is to release tension as much as possible. And if you're releasing tension and softening, relaxing the muscles in the body without collapsing, because a normal person's idea of relaxation is a deadness, fractured on the couch or in the chair. And that's maybe relaxed, but it's also a deadness. So internal martial arts, relaxation is very different than a normal person's relaxation. It'll be flat, flaccid. The relaxation referred to in internal martial arts is a very dynamic, alive, active relaxation. So if you can release tension, soften the muscles, relax, release tension without any ensuing drooping, relaxation, then you're getting to this openness quality. And if we go a step further than that, once you've released a lot of tension, you've got a long ways with that. You go further down the road with that, further with that quality and concept, is you empty your body of not only tension, but any denseness, any substantialness, like your tissues dissolve, become empty. In Asian arts, there is a concept and a phrase that goes, an empty vessel. And we want to develop a body that's an empty vessel, empty of tension and empty of denseness. And that allows the energy, the chi or the ki to move freely and abundantly through the body. So the first step, of course, is to relax, soften without losing the open structure. And then continue with that process in imagining and feeling that your body is becoming empty and open, full of emptiness. And again, using the out breath actively to release those tensions and hardnesses and denseness. That out breath is very, 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 very useful tool. Each exhale, I'm releasing more of that tightness, a little bit more tension is released on the out breath, a little bit more of that denseness is released. Another aspect of that emptiness we talk about literally in the body, so the joints become more open and more spacious, literally. So we're going towards that direction of emptiness. Or if that's really hard to wrap the mind around, openness. And each out breath again brings you closer to that. And relaxing the hands on the lap, rolling the shoulders alternatingly to get the spine moving. Release the abdomen as you do that. And rolling the other way. And then really making those rolls, shoulder circles big, bring the shoulder up to the ear and all the way down. And again, back the other way. And then rolling the chin along the chest. If you need to sit cross-legged or even stand up, that's fine. Remind yourself to breathe and release the abdomen as you do this. And really notice whenever you tend to tighten the stomach and tighten the breath a little bit, it'll happen almost everything we do. Especially dropping the head like this, there's a tendency to shorten the breath and tighten solar plexus. So you really want to catch that as part of our awareness development, part of our sinking into the body with our awareness, the extension in our body. And we notice when there's any curtailing of our breath, any tightening anywhere in our body, we get sharper and sharper and quicker at noticing that because we're inhabiting our body. And looking over the shoulder. And drawing a circle on top of the top of the head, on the ceiling. So in other words, vertical circles. Another way. And then we go a little bigger with that. We're using our hands and I roll our torso. Big circle, one way and then the other way. Checking with the abdomen, releasing along the way. Good, and one hand back for a bit of support. Make sure you don't lock the elbows out, a little bit bent, and arching to that back corner. And other arm behind the back corner. Breathe in the middle, breathe out as you stretch back. Good, right? And walking your hands forward and dropping the hips towards the floor, a little bit of an arch. And pushing the hips back, sitting the hips back, and then the hands are way out in front. You get a nice stretch here in the shoulders and lats as you tip the hips back. And back to the arch. And back to hips. And arch. And then press one hip down. One hip right down to the floor, other hip up. Breathing the whole time. And then the other hip point down. Back to center. And okay, we're going to go into pop up into a plank. And what I'd like you to do, you don't have to stay in the plank for any length of time right now. I'd like you to explore, and we've done this before. I'd like to really microscope into playing with, experimenting with going from the 4-point position to a full plank. And as you know, we want to do things through lengthening and opening rather than contracting. Of course, the normal way is through contracting. So the internal martial arts, completely the opposite of normal things, normal stuff, normal mechanics, normal approach. I want you to really contrast them back and forth so that you get a real sense that there is a different mode, a different modality, a different approach, a different way of doing. So just
Sensei, can I just ask if it's not okay to be on your hands, is on your elbows and forearms, okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thanks, Sensei.
So I was, actually trying to think of maybe a way to modify it if it's going to be difficult to do that. So excellent, good way to do it. If you have a towel or something to put under your elbows, if you're on a hard floor, whatever you need to do. Yeah, and going from this movement simply from here to here, or again, yes, here, here. I'd like you to exaggerate the difference between coming up by contracting your abdomen, torso, your legs to come up, which is the normal way. And so even again, exaggerate it, lots of contraction, very muscular. And that's what's going to help you find the other way. So I would say that a lot of people, if not most people, in the beginning have a hard time wrapping their mind around what do they mean by opening the body to do the movement? What do they mean by lengthening to do the movement? And like so many things, you fake it till you make it. You keep trying to have a sincere effort, sincere attempts at doing it. Very tiny bit by tiny bit, it starts to reveal itself. So totally okay and totally normal for these things to not make sense at first, and the words to not really give you something to work with. One of the things that will be helpful is really exaggerating the normal way. Whether that's posture, exaggerating normal collapsation, to find some sort of sense of other than that. Exaggerate coming up by, I'm going to tense my abdomen, really use my legs, tense my arms, exaggerate all that musculature and muscularizing, exaggerate it. Like really like hard physical Western exercise, exaggerate it. Then the next time, anything but that. So we do the motion eventually by lengthening through the torso, lengthening through the legs, opening and lengthening, and that's what pops me up. As I lengthen through my torso and down through the front of my legs, that pops me up. And eventually it'll keep me up. I keep that extension and flowingness, and lengthening. I keep it going. It keeps me stable, keeps me up. So I lengthen to be, I don't come up. I'm popped up by the lengthening. Chances are that won't make a lot of sense in the beginning, mentally or physically. So if you can just do it the normal way, hyper normal, exaggerated, totally muscular, maybe a couple times, really muscular, and then do it totally not that way the next 2 or 3 times. The best hint that we can come up with is lengthen and open. So if I do a couple very, very muscular. Okay, now I got to find a way to do it. Other than that, it's basically the opposite. Lengthen through my torso, down through the front of my legs, and my arms get longer. I lengthen. And I do a few of those through lengthening. It's a totally different feeling, totally different technology. So just take some time to contrast those different approaches. Whenever you're ready. So very, very muscular. Really tense those stomach muscles. And it works. You get up there and it works. The way we do things in normal life, using our muscles and being tense and tight, it works. That's why we'll never get out of it, because it works on a certain level. And it's effective on a certain level. But we'll never leave it behind. Only when you experience enough of this other process, you've experienced enough of this other new technology that's available, and you do it enough to really get a sense of it, it feels really good. Then you have a motivation to continue to change the technology. Otherwise, you never will. Once you explore the normal way, and even an exaggerated fashion, very tight, very muscular, it's the opposite. Lengthen through the torso, down through the front of the legs, lengthen through the arms, keep lengthening, opening, lengthening, and lo and behold, I am pushed up. I am pushed up. I am pushed up by the lengthening. I don't have to come up. I just do the lengthening, opening, and I'm pushed up. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about that.
So again, just playing with it, experimenting, contrasting between those two different methods. And by contrasting, that may, maybe not today,
That may eventually give enough of a contrast, enough of a distinction that the mind has a sense of what this lengthening is, this other approach is, this other methodology, this other technology, can be a little glimmer, a little hint, a little feeling, a little quality of the direction of that different technology. A sense of that methodology, how it's different than the normal way.
And so Sensei, in coming down in the lengthening mode, is that a lengthening to come down, or is that a letting go of the length?
Great question. Right now, for most of you, most people, just let it release. Just let it release and even collapse down. You probably need the mental and physical break to just drop down. But if you have the wherewithal to ask that question, you're probably ready to not do that. You're probably ready then to actually keep working, lengthening always. So that eventually, once you start to do this, you do it more and more. So it's not just something you turn on. Eventually it becomes always, all the time. So then with you, I would suggest that everything is done through lengthening. Coming down is a lengthening. So we want to be changing the fabric of our bodies and totally changing the neurology of our mind-body connection. So it spends more and more time in this other methodology. And so eventually it becomes our new default setting. So
I lengthen and open to come up. I lengthen and open to find the way down. Once you start to
access that, why would you ever leave it behind? Especially when you have the stamina mentally and physically to work with it a bit longer periods of time. It feels quite good. And doing the kind of counter-intuitive directions, like going down and continuing to stretch and open, even as you're doing kind of a direct counterintuitive, going down, you think that'd be more of a collapsation or a contraction, or at least turning the expansion, lengthening off. It's really interesting when you continue that technology through those down periods. It's very stimulating. You're going deeper into creating that quality regardless of the situation.
But for most, you work in little morsels of time, little snippets, little segments of time, and then coming down is a little bit of a break, mentally and physically. Okay, so that's maybe enough of
That particular drill for now. Let's just do one other drill, and we've done this before, standing up. Exaggerate, because if we just go into lengthen to be popped up, it's going to be really hard to find it, or if you find it in a very fleeting manner, it'll be hard to stay with it. So when you really exaggerate and contrast, you get a sense of the gap, the difference between normal. There's a gap there, there's something else. And on the other side of that gap is it. But at least you're aware of the gap. That's not that muscularization. So if you watch me for a moment, standing up, again, to exaggerate normal. I'm going to be very contractive, pulling in, using my muscles, contracting, and even pulling up. Coming up, pulling myself away from the ground. And of course, that tends to stay with me when I come up. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but of course I spent all that time
muscularizing coming up. And when I come up, I'm not gonna let go of it. I'm not gonna release it. I'm gonna keep it, right? And that's how most people are going through their life, physically and mentally. So again, to exaggerate that, use my muscles as much as I can, pull up from the ground, away from the ground, and really use my muscles. Then I'm in contrast, do that 2 or 3 times. Then I'm gonna just go the opposite direction with my feeling in my mind. I'm gonna open my body like I'm sitting in Zazen here. We talk about opening the spine, greater space between the vertebrae. I'm going to just open and lengthen my body, just the opposite of contracting. Another key aspect is not to be in a hurry. Don't move for moving's sake. I know I'm supposed to stand up, so I'm moving up, standing up as I try to get this. No. Wait, have patience. Let the lengthening and opening move you. Lengthening and opening move you. And then, if you want, Cheryl, same process going down. If you do the same process going down, you'll be in this upright Seiza position before you're in Seiza. So by the time my butt hits my legs, even before I settle down here, I'm already poised, open, spacious, even before I settle down. I'm already there. You'll notice that on the way down. Opening, opening, and eventually you'll feel that you're popped up because of the opening, stretching, lengthening process. Opening, opening, opening. Once you have enough experience to do it on the way down, the yin direction, a little harder, feels very, very interesting, very, very good. Lengthening, go down even. It just keeps me very open, very poised. And you're viable no matter what you're doing. So if you think of Kokyunage, so more experienced people here, Kokyunage, okay, especially Cheryl, you'll be able to relate to this. Doing throws, whatever Kokyunage it is, someone's connected to you. You'll be able to stay viable, centered, open, connected, and throwing even as you're going down. It's all on. Everything's on. So this will make sense to some of you. It's a little bit more intuitive to be able to be on and do the throw, Kokyunage, do the throw, maybe on the way up. On the way down, same thing. You're viable. Every millisecond, millimeter, totally viable. Every moment, every position is totally viable. Open, release, don't try to come up. Don't try to come up, just open, stretch, lengthen through as many parts of the body as you can. Don't try to come up, stretch, lengthen, with the slight awareness of intention that you want to rise and stand up, but don't do standing up. Do the opening, stretching, lengthening, but you have to give it time. You have to be patient, you have to be willing to wait. Okay, any comments or questions about that? Do that one more time, and when you come up, again, take your time though to come up. Don't come up, do the process. Do the process, be willing to hang out, be willing just to sit, hang out, do the process, see if you can find that process moving you. And once you do finally come up, keep it in your standing. Keep it in your standing as if you're still in the process of standing up. So whatever degree you were able to touch that, if you just imagine and feel you're still in the process of standing up, notice what that does for you. So I'm going to kind of just throw this question out specifically. Don't worry about the answer, Cheryl, but I'm going to ask you specifically. Cheryl, so just this standing here, imagining that you're still in the process of standing up. What does that do for you? What does that create?
quality with feelings. Cheryl, any comments with that?
Yeah, what's really, it feels great. Like there's like an alive tensioning all the way through the lines of the body. So like head, shoulders to feet, but also the arms, like it's all together.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And yeah, it feels really, really good. So like all of you standing here, I want you to, again, let's just work with this just a moment longer. Imagine and feel that you're still in the process of standing up. Even as you're standing here, you're still working up off the floor. You're in the process of opening and standing up from the floor. You're still doing it. And notice, see if you can notice some of the things that Cheryl was saying. You're still in the process of standing up. Still in the process of standing up. And as we stay with this process, you're still in this process of standing up, slowly going into Minucci. But you're still in this process of standing up. So one simple basic thing I'm noticing for myself is I do feel that it keeps me more vertical, more straight up and down. My spine is more open and my spine is more vertical. I'm still in the process of standing up. I'm still in the process of unfolding and standing up. I'm still in that process. Still in that process. Release the abdomen. Still in the process of unfolding, opening, lengthening, or emptying. Now, when you do the Tenkai, notice when you tend to lose it, where you concretize or constrict. Notice when you lose it, and just go a little slower through that segment, so you don't lose it as much, or you can keep more of it. Imagine and feel you're still unfolding, you're still opening, you're still lengthening, you're still emptying, you're still emptying. Notice when you concretize and when you lose it. Always a good, helpful mechanism is to physically release the abdomen, laying the hips. Those are things that are always helpful. But if you can imagine, you're still rising from the floor like a flower unfurling, opening from the inside out. You're unfurling from the floor. You're still doing that. Notice how that affects your movement, your shape, your posture, and your feeling. You're unfurling from the floor. Okay, let's go into another movement or two. This will be new for Marlene for sure, so don't worry about getting the movement exactly right. If you just have a general approximation of the shape of the body, that's good. Don't worry about getting the movement itself correct, just the shape, basically the openness. Sayuendo. Now, before we do Sayuendo, don't do Sayuendo. Simply the process of opening, lengthening from the floor. You're still unfurling from the floor. You're still mainly sitting in Seiza, letting spine be open and long, or rising from the floor, lengthening up from the floor, unfurling. Every moment, joints are opening, shoulder joints are opening. The spine is lengthening, space between the vertebrae is literally increasing every moment. Even in the hip joints, even the feet, the bones of the feet are opening, expanding away from each other, opening. like if you were in outer space, weightless, everything would be expanding. All the joints would be opening, expanding. Physically, literally, you'd be taking up more space, but in a very light, buoyant way, not in a forceful, muscular, contractive way, taking up space. The opposite feeling of that, the complete opposite process of that. You're taking up space because you're becoming more empty, lighter, more open. So it's like a liquid turning to gas. The molecules are set free and the molecules take up more space in the room. Your molecules are taking up more space in the room. And it's that process of expansion that is your muscle work now. No longer this muscle work, your engine, your work, the engine that makes you move is this expansion, expanding like molecules, taking up more space so that moves into a gaseous state. That's your engine that moves you. That is your engine that moves you. Physically releasing the abdomen, physically letting the arm joints, shoulder joints take up more space. The back, the neck, the back of the head, longer. And coming back, center, lengthening down through your legs, lengthening up through your torso. And then your breathing takes the lateral, expanding out. Tailbone and legs down, spine and crown up. Breathing laterally, taking up space. Breathing out, physically come back, but you still occupy the same space you expanded to. Breathing in, you expand out even further. Relax back, but you don't lose any of that space. You stay out there. And once more, breathe in, expand out even further than before. When you come back and you breathe out, you stay out there in that space that you've expanded to. Okay, let's bow out.
Domo arigato gozaimasu. Thank you very much.
Have an expansive evening.